our population is small. It's not like, you know, in 25 years, a quarter of the world will be African. So it's a completely different ball game that we're talking about here. However, in the first boys' high school right now, the QPSD, which is going to be our future vocational school, where we hope to export our curriculum globally for countries who are asking for our expertise in helping them develop the creative economy. Currently, we have an exhibition curated by OMA, led by Rem Koolhaas, called Countryside, A Place to Live, Not to Leave. And it talks about a lot of our agriculture projects, and also we work with the psychiatric hospital, which is adjacent to the school, where we use agriculture as a form of healing. And art therapy and art healing has become a very important component of any society, which then reflects the importance of culture as a neutral space, and inviting open space for anybody to participate in and to become better than when they left it. Many of the projects that Mr. Gates is doing with Qatar Fund for Development are presented there. So not only do you go and see a beautiful exhibition, but you learn about facts on agriculture, on farming, the importance of it, and you go home and start to imagine how you can contribute as an individual to the larger scheme of things.
Right, and so the prestige is there, of course, but how do these cultural investments, some of which you've led, how do they actually translate into industrial capacity and economic empowerment for the global South? We keep talking about culture. Even recently, you were described as the queen of soft power, culture as being a soft power. What are we underestimating about the economic power of culture? Because I think people still see it, arts and creative industries, as soft power and not necessarily something that could lead to economic transformation in the global South.
I think it's soft power because it leads to economic transformation. I think that for us, at least in Qatar, everything we did was completely organic. You know, when I was put in charge, you know, I didn't really realize the impact that we will receive, because simply when I started, the way culture was the least interesting sector, creative economy. You know, it was something you had to do, nice to have, but not must have. Now the perspective has completely shifted, not just in Qatar and the region, but the whole world. If you ask any country that's trying to redevelop its identity, the first thing they're going to do is look at culture, because it brings everybody together. It unites a country, it unites an identity, and it gives you a reason to believe in your power and your identity and your human dignity. So I think there's the prestige, but there's also the very organic. I mean, if you go to Liwan, which I think you have been, which is our oldest girls' school, or first girls' school, I should say, it's a design lab. It's very, very organic. It's very simple. There's no prestige there, but the quality of work that comes out of there is very, very empowering. People go there, they set up their own businesses, they go globally, they represent Qatar or whichever country they come from. As you know, Qatar is a very diverse nation, and they represent themselves globally. And so the same with the Film Institute. When we started 15 years ago, nobody believed there could be a film industry. Today, nobody can deny Doha's importance in the film industry. I mean, all of Hollywood was here last week simply because they want to set up the regional headquarters here. Right. That tells you it takes time when you talk about culture and creative economy to get credibility, but it requires a long-term vision and consistency.
Mr. Gates, well done. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Mr. Gates, Her Excellency Sheikh Mayasa talked about infrastructure being one of the barriers to economic empowerment on the African continent, which it is true, even though, you know, the Africa Free Trade Continental Area is being set up to try and improve that and you know, stop those barriers and make sure that the bottlenecks are not there anymore. What do you see as the barrier today to economic empowerment, not just on the African continent, but in the global South as a whole? There's, you know, technology, innovation going on around the world, but it's uneven. Would you say that is the biggest barrier today?
If you look at the first stage of economic development, along with health and education, the key part of the economy is going to be agriculture. You know, the majority of Africans are farmers. Ironically, even though so many people work in agriculture in Africa, the continent is a net importer of food. And it faces headwinds in the agricultural sector in that you've got very high population growth, you have degraded soils, and you have the impacts of climate change. And so it might be surprising that I believe that if we innovate by empowering those farmers, giving them an AI that's giving them advice, giving them understanding about their soils and how to improve those soils, giving them new seeds, giving them new livestock, that the opportunity for that sector is to more than overcome those headwinds and turn this into the primary area of agriculture, of economic growth, and make Africa not only self-sufficient to help solve some of the malnutrition problems, but also a significant net food exporter. And we start where an average farm in Africa is per hectare has about 20% the output of a rich rural farm. And that shouldn't be the case. And this AI advisor that will understand weather and prices and seed varieties and diseases will be one of the key elements, along with much, much better seeds and animal genetics to achieve a great vision. And that'll be continue to be the biggest part of the African economy for the next 20 years.
Okay, thank you so much for that. But on AI, artificial intelligence, Mr. Gates, there's a lot of talk about it. But how do we prevent it from becoming the new digital divide, especially on the African continent? I know you've been doing a lot of work on AI in Africa. How are we going to keep it from becoming this new divide between North and South that's existed in other fields?
Well, one of the great things about AI is that because it's able to use human language, anyone who has a cell phone will have the ability to dial a number or connect through an application and simply talk to a doctor, a virtual doctor, which is driven by AI, that remembers everything they've ever said about their health, every complaint, every diet thing, every advice they've ever gotten. And it will be available to them 24 hours a day, and this will be provided as a free service. And so you don't have to build a new infrastructure. The infrastructure that's being built today, and there's still some work to do, of the digital connectivity in Africa, getting the price of the internet connectivity down, getting the cell phones out into the hands of women in remote villages, that's taking place. Much more to do. Places like India are much further along in that, which means we'll pilot some of the AI stuff in India, but we want to get it out in Africa as quickly as we can. So it's not a new infrastructure. The only thing that's new is the cloud piece that is actually running that virtual doctor, tutor, agricultural advisor. And, the rich countries working together with groups like the Gates Foundation, we should be able to donate the rather modest cloud cost for that AI. And so it's just free. You pick up your phone, you talk as much as you want to the doctor, to the tutor, to the farm advisor, and you pay nothing for it.
Mr. Dangote, Elijah Dangote, your thoughts about that? There are those who say, as we talk about AI and so on, there are those who say that what Africa needs today are more factories and not necessarily more startups. What are your thoughts on that? And what do you think are the biggest barriers today to economic empowerment on the continent? Is it infrastructure? Is it governance? Is it, something else? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think both. I think the infrastructure and also the governance. I think when you look at it today, using AI, especially what Bill said in agriculture, is going to help us a great deal, because Africa will have 60% of the world's arable land. So we have no, we have no reason to be importing what we consume. We should actually feed the rest of the world. So I think now anybody who tries to do agriculture without technology, he will just be losing money, or he will just waste his time. So I think with that, it will help us. And that's why, naturally, if you ask me, are you a farmer? Would you like to be in agriculture? Agricultural business, I would say that no. But we got into it so that we can actually help to give freedom to our population. You know, because, I mean, that is the next area of growth. Despite the, population growth, Africa has the most vibrant population. We have 30% of the world's mineral resources. So all what we are trying to do now, for us, example us, as Dangote Group, what we are trying to do is to drive and make sure our minerals are not taken away just like that. They are processed before they are exported.
Right.
And this is one of the drives.
That's still not happening. We keep talking about that, processing them on the African continent.
Quite a lot of things have happened. In the last 7 years, we, as Dangote Group, we've invested we've invested $25 billion.
At scale, though. I mean, Dangote Group, yes, in Nigeria, it might be happening, but at scale, we're still, a lot of our raw materials on the African continent are still being processed.
I agree with you, but at scale, right? But nobody from outside Africa will come and do it for us. So we have to lead. If we lead, then people will now, come. It's just like, have you ever heard of any restaurant advertising? No. Once the food is good, you see people trooping in. So, and that's what we want to do. We want to make sure in Africa, we the Africans start first, and then other people will partner with us, because nobody will come and do it for us.
Your Excellency, your thoughts about that. How can international partnerships be better leveraged to address the local economic challenges while safeguarding also the sovereignty and interests of the people of the global south?
So I've always said, the future is ancestral. I think that it has to, as Aliko has been saying, you have to start yourselves and the rest will come. And then it's a question for you to curate and decide which companies you want or brands that you want to incorporate. But I want to go back to the AI question, because we challenge ourselves as cultural institutions in terms of, you cannot deny technology today, but also as a mother, as a responsible person in society who leads different organizations, we think about the digital loneliness that AI and technology creates. And we are using now the cultural institutions as a way to bring people together, because I think one of the few places where emotions are still triggered are in cultural institutions. And this is not just museums or art exhibitions, it could be music, ballet, opera, whatever it is that brings people together, cinema, where they can celebrate a moment and remember to be human. So we're starting a new center called the Applied Imagination, using the AI symbols, where we have technology, but we bring the science and the arts, the arts and history, arts and psychotherapy, arts and whatever exists in arts and sports, art and technology. And it's been really powerful to see how many people for the very first time convene over a topic, and they start to know things about each other that they've never known before. They might have been colleagues for 20, 30 years, but suddenly, because they're in a neutral space like a cultural institution or a museum or an art gallery, they feel at ease and they can talk about things that they may not do in the office. So I think technology is not a bad thing if you know how to use it, especially in protecting our children. And in terms of brands, I always, when people ask us, how did you do it? We had a national vision, which we respected, and we built a 25-year plan. The first was about heritage, religion, and cultural identity. We opened the Islamic Museum, followed by Methaf, the Arab Museum of Modern Art, and then the National Museum. So we completed the chapter of our history, our national history, our heritage, our religious identity, and celebrated that with the residents in Qatar and the rest of the world. Sometimes I hear people say, what if we bring this or that? And I always say, I think you need to start from within. As long as you tell your own stories and create your own narratives, it simply becomes more powerful. People today travel all around the world. They want to see your stories. They want to see authentic experiences. Because so many, and actually one thing that I think Qatar has also done quite well, thanks to our partners, is in the hospitality sector. I mean, I hope most of you are staying at the Sheraton, but if you're not staying at the Sheraton, you should be staying at the Ned Hotel, which is a project we worked on with actually Mansour, who's here, when he was the CEO of QIA, and it was an old Ministry of Interior building that we converted in partnership with the Ned and Soho House, restoring it exactly as it was with David Chipperfield. And he just opened together with the Rosewood, the Chancery, which was a former US embassy. So We could have demolished that building and started again, but we took the challenge. It cost a little bit more to restore the whole building as it was and turned it into one of the best hotels, according to the travelers.
Yes, indeed. Your Excellency, though, I do want to come back to the AI issue, because that's something that's being talked about a lot. How do we, as we talk about the Global South and empowering it, how do we make sure, as the Global South, that we're not just consumers of AI that's come from the North or from the West, but that we're actually also creating it, that we're originating some of this AI?
So what we did, I can share our experience, because we have this new center called Applied Imagination, which doesn't have a physical space yet, but it will have a physical space. And we did workshops across our entities, government, semi-private, private, etc. And one common denominator that we found was this huge interest in the Arabic language. How do you use AI to promote the language, to do translation, to teach young children calligraphy, etc. And also create apps and games in the Arabic language that doesn't feel dubbed or secondhand or imported, but really original. So for us, that's how we are approaching it. We're asking our partners and stakeholders in the education system and the private company and the Ministry of Communication, and asking them, like, how can we best serve you, since we are probably the largest content creators with our collections and digital library online of all of our, the collections that we have amassed over the years. So that's how we're approaching it. I am not... I always say I'm born in the wrong century, so I think you should ask Mr. Gates about AI and how to best use it. But for us, that's how we're approaching it. Language, heritage, image, visualization, and how to really connect it to our own identity.
All right, Mr. Gates, how do we make sure that the Global South is also, are also originators when it comes to AI, and not just consumers?
Well, there are a lot of very advanced technologies that, whether it's chip making, jet engine making, the latest pharmaceuticals that require a huge foundation of scientific work and time. And so there are going to be parts of the AI, call it the foundational piece, which will largely come out of the United States and China. Now, the competition is going to be so high that other than actually running those AIs, the price, there'll be lots of free open source capability, and even for the commercial products, the competition will mean that it's very available. And so the real challenge with AI is going to be how it's applied. When I go to Singapore and I see their plan to use AI in their health system and their justice system, they're not doing foundational AI, but they are benefiting from AI actually more than any other country, because they have a very skilled bureaucracy that showed, when the internet showed up and the digital opportunity showed up, that they would do the applications. And so, will African governments be more efficient and better run? Will African businesses be more efficient and better run? Across the entire world, the idea of how AI is going to change creativity, making movies, photos, books, it's really very open-ended. And all we can say today is that the people who jump in early, that is where a lot of creativity is going to come. Because Africa is young, they'll have a disproportionate number of the people who have kind of new ideas about how to shape it and take it. But it's really a universal technology like chips or electricity or advanced medicines that you want not to duplicate what's already been done, but take it from the level that's available and then build on top of that.
Thank you very much. Let's move the discussion forward a little bit. And I'll come back to you in a minute about, initiatives, joint initiatives that you see could be beneficial for the Global South. But Alhaji Dangote, let me ask you first about the private sector. As one of the leaders of it on the continent, and your ecosystem has really built local skills. We've seen it in Nigeria. But how are we able to expand that to other African countries without clashing with government inertia in certain cases, as we know, or even foreign exploitation? How do we scale what you've done in Nigeria to other parts of the continent?
Thank you. Well, I think we are participating in almost now 17 African countries. And what we're trying to do is not that we want to do it on our own. Our own actually is to pave the way and make sure that we collaborate with other organizations, outside, especially outside Africa, because, capital too is a bit scarce in Africa. But when we move, other people will see what we have actually done, and they will join us in making sure. I mean, it's a win-win situation. It's not about charity. It is about doing something good for the good of people and also making money at the same time. So I believe, there are quite a lot. Like what even Bill said, in terms of AI, in Africa we have very young population. And every single government, well, at least 2/3 of the governments in Africa that are involved in pushing this technology, artificial intelligence, some of them, they even have ministries just for that. So we are not going to be left behind, and I'm sure we will do our very, very best. I mean, like just now, we just finished the first phase of our investment. We are going for the second phase. And I think we'll continue to market Africa to make sure that, yes, we cannot do it alone, but we will bring in other people on board. I mean, even with the foundation, if we want to do X, Y, Z, we want to now go and do in terms of intervention in health, intervention in education, getting other foundations that are really, really interested in helping Africa. They won't go there on their own, but they will partner with us.
Right.
And, that's what we are there for. We should make sure we make Africa great. Nobody will come and do it but us.
Right. Well, Mr. Gates, you've been a good friend to Africa. You made a big announcement this year that you would give your $200 billion fortune to improve health and education service in Africa over the next 20 years, at a time when we're seeing major funding cuts from traditional donors like the United States. I know you've talked about this a little bit, but what is it at a personal values level that drives you to make this commitment? Why Africa? Why maternal and child health above everything else? And how do you see this panning out over the next 20 years? Where would you like to see this go?
Well, the capitalist system leads to some pretty extreme results, including